Every day, we see the darker side of the world around us. We witness how people can hurt others in ways that are hard to understand. It's a sad part of life, but it's something we can't ignore. As someone who dives into the world of crime, I'm here to share the most shocking stories and try to understand what drives people to do such things. I'm Michael, and today, I've got another unreal true crime story for you. It was a sunny summer morning in 1975 when 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington left her home to walk to church camp in Marple Township, Pennsylvania. It was a quiet, safe neighborhood where kids often walked alone, and no one ever thought twice about it. But that morning, Gretchen didn't arrive at camp, and as time passed, her family and neighbors grew more worried. What could have happened during that short walk? Who could have taken her from a place where everyone trusted each other? The truth, when it finally came out, would leave the entire community shocked and heartbroken. Gretchen Harrington was born on June 13, 1967, in the quiet community of Marble Township, Pennsylvania. She was the third of 4 sisters, growing up in a close-knit, deeply religious family. Her father, Harold Boyd Harrington, was a war veteran who dedicated his life to serving as a pastor for various congregations in the Reformed Presbyterian Church of North America. He was the spiritual leader of the local church, while his wife managed the upbringing of their daughters and took on church duties as the pastor's wife. The Harrington family was regarded as the cornerstone of their community. Known for their kindness and unwavering faith, they raised their daughters in an atmosphere of love and devotion to both God and family. Gretchen, in particular, was an energetic and curious child, brimming with enthusiasm for exploring the world around her. She often accompanied her father to church services, proudly carrying her well-worn Bible, and her simple yet profound faith was evident to all who knew her. Her upbringing in a devout household instilled in her a cheerful and compassionate character. The family's connection to their community extended to close friendships, particularly with the Zanstra family. David Zanstra, a pastor with the Christian Reformed Church, led the Trinity Chapel nearby. Born in May 1939 and ordained in 1965, David shared a strong bond with the Harringtons. His daughter, Mara, was Gretchen's best friend, and the two families were deeply intertwined, often spending time together due to their shared proximity and faith. Summers in Marble Township were filled with lively activities, especially the highly anticipated public camp. Children participated in games, team competitions, and plays in a wholesome, community-focused setting. In August 1975, Gretchen, then 8 years old, was an enthusiastic participant at the camp, which was held at 2 local churches. Mornings were spent at Reverend Zanstra's church, and afternoons at Pastor Harrington's. David would often help transport children between the 2 locations using his green van or a small blue and white bus. Normally, Gretchen would walk the short distance of just over a mile to church with her older sisters. However, the morning of August 15, 1975, was different. Her sisters stayed home to welcome their mother, who had just returned from the hospital after giving birth to their youngest sibling, baby Jessica. Gretchen, excited about her new sister's arrival, had considered skipping camp that day. However, her father encouraged her to go and maintain her perfect attendance record. Confident in their community's safety, Harold saw no harm in letting Gretchen make the journey on her own. Marble Township, a town of around 10,000 residents, was a place where children often roamed freely. It was a time when parents trusted their neighbors, and the idea of danger lurking in the streets seemed inconceivable. With no cell phones or GPS devices, children managed their own schedules, and doors were rarely locked. On that sunny morning, Gretchen set off alone with her Bible under her arm, her bright smile reflecting her happy, carefree spirit. Her family watched her walk down the street until she disappeared around a corner, trusting they would see her again later that day. Little did they know that ordinary summer morning would change their lives forever. Pastor David was in charge of overseeing the children at the camp that summer morning. The day began as usual, with morning exercises followed by the children being transported to church for the next set of activities. However, things took a concerning turn around 10:30 a.m. when Harold Harrington realized that his daughter Gretchen hadn't arrived at his church as expected. At first, Harold wondered if she had taken a different route or gone back home. Unable to locate her, he reached out to Margaret, Pastor David's wife, to see if she or David had seen Gretchen. Margaret explained that David had returned to the chapel after dropping off the children and hadn't seen the girl. Harold's growing concern led him to urge David to contact the local police to report Gretchen missing. At 11:23 a.m., David made the call, describing Gretchen as an 8-year-old girl with blonde hair and pigtails, approximately 3 feet 7 inches tall, weighing about 55 pounds. She was last seen wearing blue shorts and a white blouse. Soon, the news spread through the community. Gretchen had vanished. By evening, hundreds of neighbors joined the search, scouring the area tirelessly. Despite their efforts, the initial search yielded no results, and night fell with no sign of the little girl. Concerned for the Harrington family, a neighbor named Greta brought dinner to their home, trying to offer comfort to Gretchen's mother, who had just experienced the joy of welcoming a newborn daughter only to face the anguish of another child's disappearance. The following day, the search intensified. Friends, family, and volunteers from all over Marble Township came together, combing every corner of the area for clues. The Pennsylvania State Police deployed a helicopter to search from above, while the Harringtons distributed flyers with Gretchen's photo. In the picture, Gretchen's bright smile revealed the gaps of missing baby teeth. Flyers were handed out to passing drivers, taped to shop windows, and nailed to telephone poles. Local media began covering the case, and theories about what might have happened to Gretchen started to circulate. Had she wandered off and gotten lost? Had there been an accident? Or had someone taken her? Her image, wearing her favorite yellow dress, quickly became a symbol of the search, plastered across the region. By Sunday, nearly 1,000 people were involved in the search, exploring the woods, knocking on doors, and examining the nearby Darby Creek. Despite their efforts, there were no traces of Gretchen. Meanwhile, the police launched an extensive investigation, interviewing camp staff, parents, and anyone else who might have seen or heard something. Pastor David was among those questioned. He told investigators he hadn't seen Gretchen that morning, yet he was able to describe her clothing with uncanny detail, including her distinctive blue and cream shorts. This raised suspicions. How could he recall her outfit so precisely if he hadn't seen her that day? Despite these doubts, David's status as a respected religious leader made it difficult for many to consider him a suspect, especially in a time when questioning a figure of authority without concrete evidence was rare. As the days turned into weeks and then months, the search for Gretchen began to fade. The once trusting community was left shaken, and parents became more vigilant about their children's whereabouts. Stories emerged of families taking extreme precautions, with some even cutting their daughter's hair short, fearing that Gretchen's blonde hair might have been a factor in her disappearance. Although police continued their investigation, interviewing numerous witnesses and following up on reports of a suspicious vehicle seen near the church, no solid leads emerged. Hope began to dwindle, but Gretchen's family and friends refused to give up. Then, on October 14th, nearly 2 months after her disappearance, a startling discovery was made. A jogger running through a state park 6 miles from Gretchen's home stumbled upon human remains. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, reigniting fears and raising new questions about what had happened to the little girl who had disappeared so suddenly that summer morning. Upon discovering what appeared to be a child's body, the jogger immediately contacted the authorities. When Gretchen's family was informed of the discovery, they went to the scene, where her father, Harold, sorrowfully identified the clothing as that which Gretchen had been wearing on the day she disappeared. Dental records later confirmed the remains were indeed Gretchen's. The preliminary autopsy report revealed harrowing details. Gretchen had suffered at least 2 severe blows to the head, resulting in skull fractures and brain injuries, leading the medical examiner to conclude she had been brutally assaulted and her death classified as a homicide. While there were suspicions of sexual assault, the condition of the remains made it impossible to confirm. The tragic confirmation plunged the community into deep mourning and bewilderment, while the Harrington family faced the devastating loss of their beloved daughter. Pastor David played a significant role in offering solace to the grieving family, even officiating Gretchen's funeral, which was attended by a heartbroken and fearful congregation. In the following week's sermon, Harold expressed his profound grief, yet demonstrated unwavering faith, stating that Gretchen was now in God's care, the most loving Father. In the meantime, the discovery of Gretchen's body reignited police interest in the case, prompting new witnesses to report sightings of suspicious men in the area. Some mentioned seeing a green station wagon near the scene, while others described a vehicle with a red roof and dark body. However, none of these leads provided sufficient evidence to identify a suspect. David became a person of interest, particularly because he owned a green station wagon similar to the one reported and had previously described Gretchen's clothing in remarkable detail. Despite detectives' persistent questioning, he maintained that he had not seen Gretchen that morning and could not explain his detailed description of her attire. Parallel investigations into known local sex offenders and the vehicles spotted in the area also led to dead ends. The investigation encountered numerous obstacles, and Gretchen's case remained unsolved, becoming a haunting mystery for nearly 5 decades. The crime continued to linger in the collective memory, with those who knew Gretchen ensuring her story was passed down to new generations. One such individual was Joanna Falcone Sullivan, an American writer who was 9 years old and living in the area when the tragedy occurred. She dedicated much of her professional life to researching the case and its impact on the community. In 2021, during the global health emergency, she began working on a book, which was published in October 2022, titled The Tragedy of Gretchen Harrington in Marple. Her goal was to keep the story alive and update it as new information emerged. The publication of Sullivan's book seemed to trigger a memory in someone, leading to a breakthrough in the investigation. In early 2023, an anonymous woman came forward, claiming to know who was responsible for Gretchen's disappearance. This witness, a childhood friend of Zanstra's daughter, recounted unsettling incidents that had occurred during sleepovers at the pastor's house in 1975. She provided her diary from that year, detailing inappropriate behavior by Zanstra, including instances where he had touched her inappropriately during overnight stays. The informant, now 60, told investigators that when she confided in Zanstra's daughter about the incidents, The response was that her father sometimes behaved that way with certain guests. The diary also mentioned a separate incident involving an attempted abduction of another neighborhood girl named Holly, adding further weight to the investigation. These events coincided with the time of Gretchen's disappearance, prompting authorities to take the witness's statement seriously. Armed with this renewed testimony, police reopened the case and located David Zanstra, now an 83-year-old retiree living in Marietta, Georgia, where he had moved with his wife after retiring in the mid-2000s. Initially, Zanstra denied any involvement in Gretchen's disappearance and the allegations concerning the other two minors. However, faced with mounting evidence and new information, he eventually confessed to the crime, albeit claiming that his advanced age made it difficult to recall all the details precisely. According to his confession, on the morning of August 15, 1975, he saw Gretchen walking alone and offered her a ride in his green station wagon, which she accepted, trusting him as a familiar figure. Instead of taking her to the church, he drove her to a secluded, wooded area. Once there, he attempted to coerce her into undressing, but when she refused, he resorted to violence. Zanstra admitted to striking Gretchen, leading to her death, and then concealing her body in the woods. David Zanstra was subsequently charged with multiple offenses, including criminal homicide and first-degree murder, in the killing of 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington in Marple Township, Pennsylvania. On July 17, 2023, the Delaware County District Attorney's Office announced Zanstra's arrest in Georgia. He was charged with first, second, and third-degree murder, as well as the kidnapping of a minor and possession of a criminal instrument. Authorities requested that Zanstra be denied bail, citing his threat to the community and the risk of flight. The judge granted the request, and Zanstra was held in pre-trial detention at a county jail in Georgia, awaiting extradition to Pennsylvania. In a press statement, the district attorney detailed how Zanstra had committed the crime, describing it as every parent's worst nightmare and emphasizing the devastating impact on the Harrington family and the wider community. Following legal protocols, representatives from the Delaware County Sheriff's Office coordinated Zanstra's extradition to Pennsylvania, where he would stand trial. Zanstra's confession, while providing closure to Gretchen's family and community, also raised disturbing questions about whether he might have had other victims. A DNA sample was taken from him and entered into the combined DNA index system to check for connections to open cases nationwide, including unsolved disappearances, sexual assaults, and homicides. Investigators uncovered Zanstra's extensive pastoral career, which had granted him access to vulnerable individuals for decades. Before moving to Marple Township, he had served as a pastor at a now-closed church in New Jersey. After Gretchen's disappearance, he and his family relocated to a suburban church in Dallas, Texas, where he led a congregation for 7 years. He later joined a church in San Diego, remaining there until 1990, and ultimately retired in California in 2005 at the age of 65. The Reformed Christian Church of North America, which had overseen the churches where Zanstra served, issued a statement claiming no prior knowledge of complaints against him but pledged full cooperation with law enforcement. California authorities also began investigating whether Zanstra was connected to the 1991 disappearance of Amanda Nicole Campbell, a 4-year-old girl last seen riding her bike to a friend's house. At the time, Zanstra reportedly lived just a few houses away from Amanda. For Gretchen's father, Harold Harrington, closure came too late. He had passed away in 2021 at the age of 94. Upon learning of Zanstra's arrest, Gretchen's mother and sisters issued a heartfelt statement expressing their complicated emotions, a mixture of gratitude for justice and enduring pain from decades of unanswered questions. They described Gretchen as a kind and gentle soul who quickly made friends wherever she went, leaving a lasting impression on all who knew her despite her brief life. The family thanked Pennsylvania State Police for their tireless pursuit of justice and requested privacy as they processed the new developments. While the arrest provided long-sought answers, the revelation of Zanstra's betrayal as a trusted religious leader sent shockwaves through Marple Township. It was easier for residents to imagine an outsider, a disturbed drifter, as the perpetrator. The truth was much harder to bear. The man responsible was a respected community member, a spiritual guide, and a family man. As of late 2023, Zanstra had been extradited to Pennsylvania, though details about his trial or sentencing remained unavailable as of December 2024. His confession and arrest offered some measure of closure for the Harrington family and the community after nearly 50 years of unanswered questions and heartbreak. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.